Yet another Valentine's Day has passed, and even though it has passed, we aren't hard-pressed to notice its lingering impact. Look no further than grocery stores and retail businesses who are still trying to sell excess Valentine's Day merchandise. As usual and unsurprisingly, there was extensive advertising by a vast array of companies hoping to capitalize on the holiday, jewelry stores being the most obvious, since they certainly wouldn't miss an opportunity to run marketing campaigns explaining why you should spend hundreds of dollars, if not well beyond that, to show your significant other that you love them. Furthermore, this is evidently irrespective of whether or not they already wear an expensive diamond ring on their finger. The extensive marketing prior to Valentine's Day and the economic activity it generates begs the question, has love become a commodity? In other words, has love become yet another casualty of mass commercialization and consumerism? Today's discussion explores the contemporary commercialization of love, with a particular focus on how this phenomenon came to be, its effects on individual perceptions of love, and finally, how these manipulated perceptions differ from what love should actually entail. To begin, I should note that at this juncture I won't perform an extensive analysis of Valentine's Day or its history. The inclusion of this holiday and its associated themes will instead be utilized as context for the broader topics of love, individual perceptions of love, and the commercialization of love. Now, before I commence the analysis, it's crucial to define key terms so we can acquire a general understanding or starting point. Although love has several definitions, there are two variants that are of particular focus for today: non-platonic or romantic love, and platonic or non-romantic love. One definition of non-platonic love from Merriam-Webster remarks, quote, "Attraction based on sexual desire, affection and tenderness felt by lovers," end quote. Meanwhile, platonic love is defined as, quote, "strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties," and affection based on admiration, benevolence, or common interests, end quote. Although the discussion will largely focus on the former definition, my assertions and conclusions will also encapsulate the latter definitions to some extent. Switching to commercialization, how is this term defined? Once again, although there are various definitions, I'll primarily focus on sense 2, which remarks, quote, "to exploit for profit," end quote. Finally, consumerism is defined in one sense as, quote, "a preoccupation with and an inclination toward the buying of consumer goods," end quote. With the terms defined, on to the analysis. Love and romance have evidently been around for quite some time, but the mass commercialization of love and romance is a relatively recent phenomenon. Regarding Valentine's Day, it has a long and complicated history, but the general consensus is that its direct association with love and romance began around the 1500s, and commercially printed Valentine cards emerged in the late 1700s. With further technological advancements since then, the rate at which love, romance, and Valentine's Day have become commercialized evidently increased exponentially. At present, due to extensive marketing and rampant consumerism, it's safe to say that love has become yet another economically exploited commodity. Anecdotally, I've realized this truth through continued experience and observation. Prior to the most recent Valentine's Day, two advertisements stood out from the others. One was a TV advertisement from People's Jewelers, and the other was general advertising on Amazon.ca's homepage. The People's advertisement appeared during a break in a hockey game, and the marketed products were diamond earrings and necklaces, starting at a few $100s. Cheap for diamonds, I suppose, but still expensive for just one holiday. Meanwhile, Amazon.ca's homepage advertised modest merchandise like chocolate and stuffed animals, but the entire page was essentially pink and filled with Valentine's Day themed products. These advertisements and countless others, in addition to previously passed down expectations, customs, and pressures, reaffirms the conclusion in my mind that love has become yet another commodity, at least in contemporary North America. With that said, how has this phenomenon emerged? What was the catalyst or primary impetus that led to this result? From my perspective, the answer is twofold. The first component is the capitalistic entrepreneurial spirit that drives continual product innovation, along with their marketing methods. Unless we're discussing an extremely niche or specific product, it's generally the case that most products can be mass-produced relatively quickly and at a much lower cost compared to decades ago. The factory assembly line model that, at one time, exclusively applied to products such as automobiles, has now expanded to encapsulate a plethora of others. Meanwhile, the second component involves cost of living, individual time constraints, and the human proclivity for laziness. With each passing year, the value of money decreases. $1 last year is roughly 98 cents this year. Evidently, more money is required now to obtain the same number of goods or services. This continual increase, and sometimes dramatic increase, in the cost of living exacerbates the pressure on individuals to provide for themselves and their families. Working jobs with longer hours, multiple jobs, or having to log additional overtime at a current job further constrains already finite time. Even more so if you have additional time commitments outside of work that involve family, athletics, and/or volunteering. Because there's always the necessity to maximize finite time and the continual perception that there's always so much to do, but so little time, this causes us to be lazy. We're less likely to spend time creating handcrafted gifts during the hustle of everyday life, and thus, purchasing commercially made gifts is the natural solution. Coupled with rationale number 1, continued innovations in mass commercial product and marketing technology, we can easily understand why love has become so commercialized. Rampant consumerism fueled by technological advancement, the economy's current state, coupled with the necessity to continually grind to earn a decent living, and our inherent laziness, have enabled love to become yet another commodity. With all that said, how does this commercialization impact our perceptions of love? Is this effect positive or negative? The impact on our perceptions of love due to mass consumerism and commercialization is largely negative for a few reasons. 1. A robust tendency has arisen where we feel compelled to purchase commercial products on a regular basis to show others that we love them. Like clockwork, this evidently feeds the cycle of consumerism. 2. Not only do we face the temptation to purchase commercial products on a regular basis, we're also conditioned to believe that they should be as expensive or as luxurious as possible. 3, and perhaps the most damning of all, is the perception that our love is insufficient if we can't provide commercial gifts to loved ones on a regular basis, and/or they don't meet a particular threshold in terms of quality. Reason 3 is a natural conclusion of 1 and 2, because this feeling of great inadequacy is almost guaranteed to arise if one buys into the conditioned ways of thinking, how we've been taught to perceive love. Furthermore, these perceptions are perpetuated by other people and not just the companies hoping to sell a product. Whether we realize it or not, we naturally compare ourselves to others. Most of the time this occurs subconsciously, and it's primarily expressed through internal desire for circumstances to be different. Each of us has insecurities due to characteristics such as height, weight, intelligence, social standing, and relationship status, among other factors. For example, by having an internal thought such as, "I wish I were taller," or thinner, this means that you've already subconsciously compared yourself to taller or thinner people. This phenomenon also occurs with love, especially when we see others provide consistent or expensive gifts to demonstrate their affection. Parents also experience this pressure when they see other parents dote on their children. If they're unable to provide gifts to the same extent, then they tend to feel guilty and insufficient. The extensive commercialization of love, then, appears to not just be a result of companies attempting to sell more products, but rather, it's also due to continued acceptance of the association between gifts and love by many people. Peer pressure to keep purchasing commercial gifts, the expectation of receiving gifts during holidays and special occasions, and comparison between people enables the distorted perceptions of love to persist. The phrase, "it shouldn't be this way," evidently comes to mind at this point. Indeed, To show someone that you love them, no matter if it's in the non-platonic or platonic sense, it shouldn't require you to break the bank and/or continually purchase commercial products. A meaningful and more robust demonstration of love is through sacrifice and commitment. This can be demonstrated in multiple ways, but the greatest method is through the sacrifice of time. Time is our most valuable asset, because unlike money, we can't reclaim time once it has been spent. There are no refunds with time, and thus, demonstrating that you care about or love someone by spending time with them is considerably more impactful than purchasing gifts. I'll elaborate on this assertion through 2 examples. First example, a person is giving a series of speeches at different events across a certain length of time, weeks or months, let's say. Their significant other chooses to attend every event, even though they aren't obligated or expected to do so. By attending, the speaker's significant other is tangibly demonstrating support and love for them in a more profound manner compared to gifting a bouquet of flowers after the speaker's series concludes. Second example, 2 parents support their son by attending his hockey games, and despite having to balance competing obligations, they make a conscious effort to attend most, if not all, games. When children are young, they naturally seek affection and attention from their parents. In this case, both parents attending hockey games to support their son satisfies both components. By sacrificing time and effort in terms of adjusting busy schedules, they're actively demonstrating commitment to and love for their child. This is far more impactful in the child's mind compared to rarely spectating, but providing the best hockey equipment in its place. The overall point I'm attempting to make is that true love and care is expressed through commitment. During everyday life, this involves paying attention to the concerns of your loved ones, listening to their problems, valuing their opinions, and providing reasonable assistance wherever possible, among other things. They, in turn, will do the same if they truly love and care about you. It won't always be easy, and there will be occasions where relationships are strained, but love can endure those struggles if it's robust and true. A final point before I conclude is that gifts can be construed as meaningful expressions of love because you must sacrifice time and money to acquire them. Perhaps, but the caveat is that it depends. Not all gifts are weighed equally in terms of time required to get them, or the money to purchase them. Furthermore, merchandise is likely to be forgotten or discarded at some point, but something handcrafted is less likely to be ignored or forgotten so easily. To conclude, although love has become commercialized to a considerable degree, this doesn't imply that all hope is lost. There are individuals out there who haven't succumbed to the expectations and pressures regarding the automatic association between love and persistent gift-giving. Although they may expect gifts from time to time, it's not for every holiday or special occasion, and spending time with them is preferred to receiving consumer goods. These diamonds in the rough exist, and they can be found with enough persistence. Even if it takes a little longer, having to wait is preferable compared to settling for someone who expects to be pampered with attention and gifts at every opportunity. The unfortunate truth is that they'll never be satisfied no matter what you provide them in terms of love, support, money, time, and gifts. Meanwhile, someone who's content and satisfied with less will appreciate your efforts across time. This doesn't imply that they'll readily tolerate a lack of commitment on your part or failing to uphold your obligations, but rather they'll be more forgiving, understanding, and pragmatic when it comes to the burdens you'll face together. Navigating life's storms is already bad enough when doing so alone, so who would you prefer to have by your side? Inanimate objects that provide temporary solace when they actually work, or a dependable companion who provides peace of mind, love, and support, especially during moments when you need it the most. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing.